Lord Jesus Christ, and welcome to St. Cyril Methodius Orthodox Church. I'm the pastor, Father Gregory. It's good to have you with us this morning. Well, it's the 12th Sunday after Pentecost. It's August 30th, and it's about 8 o'clock, and liturgy will begin in about 9:30. So hopefully if you're watching this now, you'll have an opportunity to join us liturgy in about an hour and a half, either in person, which would be lovely and marvelous, or at least online. As always, if you do join us online, please give us a little thumbs up or a heart or an angry face, something, just so that we know you're there. Maybe make a comment. You may not realize this, but I actually do read the comments, and I try to respond to them as often as I can. So I was thinking about some stuff today. I mentioned last night after Vespers that what's unique about Orthodox moral theology is that our fundamental concern is, as we sit here in the prayer at Vespers, trying to avoid the diverse and subtle snares of the evil one. That one of the reasons I mentioned that last night is because it's something that came to mind earlier this week. As if you've been listening to some of these sermons and things like that, I've touched on the idea of the spirit of abstraction that has become very popular, not just sort of in our culture, but even among Christians. And I am rather, frankly, promiscuous in my reading, not my personal life, obviously, but I do tend to read lots of stuff. And I read a series of essays earlier this week, written by a Catholic and an evangelical Christian, and I was quite taken by their joint use of the phrase Orthodox Christian, small o Orthodox to be sure, but Orthodox. And as I something about that felt just a little off to me. And as I thought about it, I realized that by the light of their respective traditions, neither would actually see the other as an Orthodox Christian. The Catholic would look at the evangelical and say, well, you have a misapprehension, among other things, about the nature of the sacraments. And the evangelical would look to the Catholic and say, well, you put faith in sacraments rather than a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and the sacraments are unnecessary. That's just one example. So I realized that in this context, I wasn't really sure what it meant for these two authors to call each other Orthodox Christians. As I've thought about it and read the articles, I realized what they mean by Orthodox Christian is really that they don't not all moral positions in common. A Roman Catholic, for example, would not see remarriage after divorce as morally legitimate, at least without a decree of nullity. The evangelical Christian would have no problem with someone entering into a second or third marriage. So, obviously they don't even agree with all moral positions, but they were calling each other Orthodox Christians because they shared a series of some common moral positions relative to cultural and public policy issues. The moral teachings that they shared in common, I have no particular objection to. I agree with them as well. Their cultural concerns, I think, are legitimate, and their policy prescriptions, certainly acceptable. But it was the use of the phrase Orthodox Christian that really did, like I said, set me off a little bit, and I wasn't comfortable with it. And the reason is this, because I think when you actually examine what's being said and what's going on, what they mean by Orthodox Christian seems to me to be that they agree with each other on a small number of moral and cultural and policy concerns. Orthodox Christian, in the context of the article, seemed to mean that we make common cause on these issues, and we choose not to examine those theological issues, those moral issues where we disagree. Now, let me be clear. I'm perfectly fine with that. We find our partners and our collaborators in life where we find them, and there's a lot to be said for focusing on what we have in common rather than where we diverge. But I think we shouldn't make common cause in a way that whether intentionally or not, minimizes or ignores our substantive differences. That really is problematic, and I think it lends credence to the criticism that for many Orthodox, for many Christians, their politics matters more to them than their theology and their morality. And I think when Roman Catholics and evangelical Christians, or for that matter, Orthodox Christians and mainline Protestants, start calling each other Orthodox Christians as a way to sort of glide over or downplay our differences, that really does open us up to the charge that we are more concerned about politics or morality than the gospel. Well, this is not going to make me friends. But I mean, but this is what I saw, and this is what I really do think is a problem. By all means, I think Christians should be engaged in the public square. We should argue for our moral positions, and we should not allow our theological differences to keep us from linking arms, going into the public square, and making that argument. But I think if you're an Orthodox Christian, at least, you need to be very clear that there are also theological differences, and that those matter as well, and that the linking arms is really just for this specific concern. God willing, over time, maybe, as we get to know and trust each other, there'll be some theological reconciliation. But I think too often Christians, and especially, frankly, Christians on the right, are willing to minimize doctrinal and even moral differences in the pursuit of shared policy and cultural concerns. I don't think that's helpful, and I think we should avoid it. Anyway, it's about 10 after 9 now, 10 after 8, excuse me, here in Mad City, Wisconsin. And hopefully you'll be able to join us for liturgy in about an hour and 20 minutes, pray with us. And that'd be lovely. It'd be even better if you could be here in person, but I understand maybe you live far away, or maybe you're concerned about COVID, whatever it is. Hope you have an opportunity, however you can, to pray with us later this morning. So God bless you, and bye-bye.